definitely can hear the cicadas this time.
Yep. Man, it's summer in Kansas City. Wonderful cicadas. Hey, everybody, this is the PixelBlips podcast. I'm Andy Ryan. That's Dave DeWert. Last time, I'm sure we talked about...
I hope we got so much hate mail, because that would be better than the no mail that we get now.
I know. Here's my... If we do get comments on either of these videos, I will do my best to answer them and to be as forthcoming with what I know, what I've seen, and my opinion on things, which is really the only thing anyone can offer.
Because we don't... From our position, we don't know anything.
Yes.
We all have opinions.
No matter how much evidence you have of something, a crime hasn't been committed. Like, you don't know the whole story until someone has gone before a judge.
Okay.
Which, no matter how much evidence Zoe Quinn has that all of these guys on 4chan are
plotting to destroy her life,
harassing her and everything, it's not truth until the judge says, okay, these guys are convicted. Because that's just how our justice system works. It's kind of shitty sometimes. I'm sorry. You know, no matter how many lines 4chaners draw from different writers in the game's press to...
How much red MS Paint they use.
Yes, to different Indiegogo supporters. Like, it's not the full story because you don't know the full story. You're just a person on 4chan or Imager or MS Paint. Or you're just a guy in the press. Or you're just the person supporting an Indiegogo campaign. So you don't know everything. So, in reality, all we really have is our opinions. This is where we start talking about journalism.
Yeah. So, what were we going to talk about? So
once again, I did make a promise to Dave last week that I wouldn't...
There was all these things that I brought up that I have since
We'll talk about it later.
Yes.
So, the first thing that I remember Dave talking about that I said we would talk about later was ethics and journalism.
Yeah.
And... what is a conflict of interest? What is not a conflict of interest?
And we talked about
this.
We talked about this like a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago, in real time on Facebook or something.
Because this is once again like last.
This has been going on for a while.
I do work in
media.
I did take this class. I do understand maybe a bit more than other people. Once again, I don't understand everything. I could be totally wrong. I know that this is how I operate in my profession, how others operate in my profession that I have dealings with. I don't have dealings with the game's press at all, except for the occasional tweet and back tweet, and pat on the back, stuff like that. So, generally, because journalists are people first, and people form relationships with the people that they are in contact with the most.
Yeah, and you know, from what I've seen, because we have no real, like, I think the closest link we have is we had Chris Arnone on our show one time.
He's a good guy.
Yeah, but
he's now doing book reviews. He's awesome.
Yeah, you know, for like the guys that do Giant Bomb and Kotaku and all that, they all know each other really well because they all go to shows together. They all, you know, sometimes they hang out after work for, you know, whatever other reason, because why not?
Because they all work.
In the same thing, and they're all gonna be like, oh well, you know, they probably aren't gonna say, oh well, what's your story gonna be this week? Like, what are you guys talking about? Because that's trade secret type stuff, I guess.
Yeah, you generally don't talk to other news outlets about that stuff, but you do talk to other news outlets about the day-to-day rigmarole.
Yeah. Just like, you know, if I was to talk to another guy who works in another data center, they're like, oh, well, that's cool, you know.
What's your air conditioner like? Oh,
yeah. I mean, it's dumb, but yeah, it'd be like, how is you laid out?
So that is what happens. So the problem with journalists in the media is that generally we form relationships with people that we cover. So in media I work, we cover a lot of different things. So you generally don't have a very close relationship with anybody. But a good example... normally, when people leave reporting, they will go to PR jobs because the PR jobs pay better.
Well, yeah, because
and the
they
people
have bigger budgets.
The people that have worked in the media have those connections already. So I have a lot of connections to people that I have, not because they work where they work now, but because at one point or another they worked with
them.
Me.
Yeah.
Yes. So when you're drawing MS Paint lines from so-and-so to so-and-so because they know each other and they had a beer one time, well, okay.
I mean,
normally happens.
You could say that about anybody, though, right?
Yes.
Like it's like 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon, whatever the hell that game is.
7.
Like you could pretty much draw a line from any one person to any one other person, just by going, oh, well, you met this guy once at an airport.
Yes.
You said hi to him.
It's
or,
like the people that always say that celebrity deaths happen in threes. It's like, no, you just notice that they happen in threes because you're looking for it.
Well, I mean, Robin Williams, Joan Rivers.
Yeah, but like how much time has to pass before it's like, okay,
There's
this
a
is this is
third.
a 3 section.
Well,
You
let's
just
see. It's only
starts
been like, what, a month?
Yeah, one starts and then you wait until you get 2 more.
And like, oh, there's the trifecta. We're done.
Tinfoil hat brigade stuff.
Hey.
So basically,
I'm still waiting for that last one to fall.
So basically, what happens is when you do have a relationship in media that is close,
Yes.
i.e., my wife works for a nonprofit that we occasionally cover. We will either A, I will not write about it, and we'll have someone else write about it.
Mm-hmm.
Or B, more likely, I'll write about it, but then 2 or 3 managers check off on it.
Well,
Just like 2 or 3 managers normally check off on everything
well, and
else.
usually, like sometimes there's like this big disclaimer at the top. You know, my wife works for this thing, blah blah
Yep.
blah blah blah. You know, I'm trying to be objective, but blah 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 blah. This thing, that,
Yes.
and the other.
If it's
Like,
that type of thing,
Yeah.
if it's an investigative report, at that point we will usually recuse ourselves.
you just you step away and be like, all right, Timmy, you take this one.
Like, this is just going to look poor, no
Yeah.
matter what. The problem with that is, specifically in relation to GamerGate, the relationship that Zoe Quinn had with this writer at publication wasn't romantic. They might have been friends. The dumbest thing I've heard about this whole thing was someone said, well, people don't just start effing. He didn't say effing. People don't just start effing. So clearly they had a relationship beforehand. Here's a good example, kids. Yes, people do just start effing.
Sometimes they do. Depends on how much
Like-
booze there is, but yes.
Like, basically, there's a point when you're not effing, and there's a point later when you are effing. It's somewhere in between, you just started effing. Because that's how humanity works.
Pretty much.
Like, do you generally just start effing strangers? Hopefully not. But hey, some people do.
You know, yeah.
So when people said there's this great Zoe Quinn conspiracy,
Yes.
because she's now started to own that
Man, I'm
term,
gonna have to use all these tags on the YouTube channel now.
Yeah, you're a lot of them. I feel
And-
better
and-
using that term.
I do.
Because she's owned it. Basically, in my line of work, I immediately thought of 5 or 8 easy examples of people I know that started out covering someone and then went to a relationship with them later. Because that
Well, I
happens
mean,
a lot.
technically, like, and here's the thing, you have to augment relationship. You can't just say a relationship, because there's a difference between the relationship you have with the guy on the bus that you ride every day, and you go, oh, hey, what's up, Steve?
Yep.
And you just all you know is his name is Steve.
He's Steve.
And he sits in this spot every day.
There's a difference between
That
like,
is a relationship,
you
but
and
it is
me.
a very different relationship than, say, me and you sitting on the couch talking about video games and stuff, or me and my wife, or you and your wife.
Yes.
Like, those are all relationships.
Yes.
But there is a serious relationship, there is a friendship,
Yep.
then there is your, the guy you know on the bus.
Yep.
So, maybe she knew this guy. She knew of this guy. She'd sat and had dinner with him once in like a big group event where there was like
Yes.
36 people.
So that's where he was interviewed. What we would say in Hollywood, the meet cute.
Yes, that thing.
They kissed, her leg popped, and no, that comes after the meet cute.
What?
You haven't heard of that?
I have no idea what the
You need to watch
leg
the
popped.
Princess Diaries. Anyway.
I am not watching that show or that movie, whatever the hell it is.
Anyway, so basically what basically happens is you meet people at events, you get to know them through events, and because you're so you don't have a social sphere outside of your work, because most people normally don't. Most people that move to a new city,
I like the people I work with too.
yeah, will hang around their coworkers more often than not.
Yeah, I see the guys I work with. I see them more than I see my wife.
Yes, and because of that, eventually a relationship will form, they will get married, blah, 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 blah. Does that invalidate the original story that was written? No. Because the original story that was written was as objective as could be at the time. And I say as objective, we'll get into that in a moment.
I thought you said we weren't going to say we'll get into that later, or we'll get into that in a moment.
I didn't say later. Oh, okay. Okay, so when I say as objective, Dave, put a bookmark in the relationship things. When I say as objective as possible, you have to understand, very rarely in news can you be 100% objective.
Yes, because you have stated that reading that is like eating dry toast in the Sahara. It's a terrible time.
In news, we try to be as objective as possible while also being entertaining. The problem with video games media and the press as it is now is it started around reviews. Reviews are not news, which is why when you go on sites like IGN, there's a different tab for news
reviews
and for reviews.
Yes.
Because they're different. Because in reviews, people use a lot of their personal opinion on things. In news, we pretty much just report the facts.
Yes.
Just the facts, ma'am. I remember a few years ago they started up this blog, Totally Objective Video Game Reviews. And it was like, Call of Duty Ghosts, a first-person shooter. You can play up to 32 players multiplayer.
It was basically a feature list.
Yeah, and done. And they didn't assign a score. They just said, here's basically what would be on the back of the box.
Yeah, and the problem with a 100% objective, like a review like that, is it is dry and it is nothing.
When you
like
go to
you
the
can't
review,
you can't say I thought this was fun. I can't say I think this is dumb or this felt hokey to me
Here's
or
a good
whatever.
example.
Because
the 100% objective review of Super Mario Brothers. 1 or 2 players cannot play together at the same time. The main character is red.
There's only 8 times 30.
The
24 levels or something.
The second player is green. You are supposed to save the princess. There are so many levels.
She's always in another castle until she's not.
So
yes, I understand.
And the problem is, since games press grew out of reviews, you've always had people's opinion in them more than you would have in normal news.
Yes.
But the problem is, people get confused. They're like, I just want a review of the game. I don't want your opinion.
You kind of are asking for the opinion
You
of
want
the
the
person
opinion of the guy when you want... What he's saying, when you're going, should I buy this? They're not being objective.
They're saying, yes, I thought it was fun, you should play it, or no, this
My
game is
personal
junk, I don't
feeling
like it.
is that you should buy it.
Yeah. Yes, and I think the problem of an industry born out of game reviews, where opinion is like 80% of what's there,
Yep.
may need to step back for when they actually talk about news, because you see, like, there are like, I've seen those articles where it's just like, okay, this happened, here's a screenshot, here's a little blurb, I'm out.
Yeah.
Like,
and you're just like, why did I even click on that?
because that's all it is. You could read the screenshot and get all the context. But then there are also those times when occasionally they sneak in their little bit of, I think this is really dumb or whatever.
Yes.
And
Which they shouldn't do.
No. And I'm not going to call anybody out because I can't remember anything specific offhand. But it happens from time to time. They say, we'll see about this. It kind of seems silly to me, but...
Yes. So what people are actually saying when they're saying they want more objective journalism is something else. So we're going to jump back to the Quinn thing.
Okay.
So since the relationship happened afterwards, people were like, well, they're in a relationship now.
And the thing is, like, I think a lot of people raise issue with what is the actual timeline. And I said this last time is, Duder might have said, oh, yeah, no, it's cool. And then, like, 2 weeks later said, oh, no, now it's not so cool.
Yes. So that's the thing. Like,
and there's also conflicting evidence saying, like, she had admitted to her, and I don't know if this is true. I have no idea what the timelines are.
Okay.
Saying, like, she admitted it.
I actually had to dig into the timeline, so I have a little bit of an idea.
Well, I saw it, and I couldn't find it again. Because you know how Reddit is.
So disgusting.
She said Vegas, which tells me GDC. And that's in January.
Okay.
And then that was published in, like, March.
So the new timeline that
was what I saw initially.
This is all from the ex-boyfriend, so take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
But the original timeline was the guy said that the infidelities happened between March and April. When what he actually meant was, and he said this now, it started in late March and it happened in April. That's as far as he knows.
I mean, March and April.
Yeah, as far as he knows, whatever. Still doesn't change the fact that, according to the corner office, the editor-in-chief at Kotaku, this guy, Zoe Quinn, and now even Zoe Quinn's ex-boyfriend, at the publication of the time of the publication of the first article, they were not in a relationship, in a sexual relationship.
Serious, anything like that.
And all of this Quinspiracy stuff comes back to...
it's all about he said, she said, basically.
And really misogynistic things of people going, well, she can... because she's friends with one of the writers on Kotaku, she can influence everybody at that site.
Not necessarily.
Unless she has magic genitalia, no. What was that? The 10 Things I Hate About You?
Yeah.
What was this chick got? Beer-flavored nipples?
Yeah.
Well, that's not how we're like... A good example, I work with someone whose husband works at Sprint, but I have a T-Mobile phone because I still think Sprint is bunk.
Sprint is kind of junk most days. I really wish there was a Google Fiber option for Sprint, but, or for cell phones.
Yes. But so like there's a good example. Like just
Still
because
stuck on timeline.
someone on staff has a very close relationship with someone else
Doesn't mean everybody else there is on board.
Yeah, it doesn't mean like, and that is why, and people are like, oh, well, this is why, in mainstream news and normal news, they disclose all this stuff. No, they don't.
No, they don't.
What they disclose is monetary. So basically, they disclose when Keith Olbermann gives a donation to somebody, and that's why he lost his job. Or gets a donation from somebody.
Yeah.
That's why I have very succinct rules in my contract about what things I can accept as gifts, what things I have to return, what monetary
and you know
value.
What? That also came out for some of these websites where they can receive gifts up to a certain dollar amount.
Yes.
And that's when I was working, because I worked for a company, and I wasn't like a PR person, right? But they were like, oh, it's not okay to accept gifts of any dollar amount. Like you can't accept gifts at all. Like at all, just period, and none at all.
So I can't give you anything?
No.
This is going to make Christmas awesome.
In a professional standing,
yes,
you could not get something like that.
Yes.
Like just to avoid conflicts of interest. And
yes.
I think maybe that needs to be what it is, because who determines what a gift is? Like is
the lawyers do.
Well,
there's
yes,
very clearly defined limits.
Yes, but like a review copy of a game. Is that a gift, or is that because like Destiny is not being released early to journalists because one, the servers won't be online until Monday.
Yep.
Well, will have been online Monday as of the time you guys see this.
Yes.
They wasn't being released early to journalists because they wouldn't be able to play it anyway because it requires them to be online. But there are other games where that's not an issue that aren't being given out early so that they can make reviews and stuff like that for whatever reason.
So here's the issue with that. That is another thing that has grown out of basically not just games media, but any entertainment media, is that generally movie studios will give movie reviewers early access to the movie.
Who's to say that as not necessarily being part of their job, like this is me reaching because I like to reach. And I like I like to poke the limit of what you're gonna find acceptable here.
Okay, pokey poke.
So, like say you are a movie reviewer and they know, oh, this guy loves freaking action movies. He loves Marvel movies. Yep. We're gonna give him a chance to watch, Ant-Man 2 months early or a month early. Is that going to the fact that you get to watch it early? Is that gonna color your review of it versus watching some movie that you really don't care about, like you got to watch some new War and Peace or something.
Oh.
Like
I'd rather see Ant-Man.
Exactly.
Okay,
but I'm saying like
so here's how that
as for people who play games, like if somebody was to send me a review copy of a game, and it was unsolicited, like they send it to me because they thought, oh, this guy's gonna have.
And that does happen.
Like usually you have to request a review copy of a game. From what I understand, that's how that works. And then you get to keep it afterwards. Well. You keep it afterwards, does that mean it's a gift?
No. And here's why. Basically, the movie reviewing, you run a good example with the movie reviewing, doesn't work as well for the video game. In the movie reviews, the problem with that is the early access. Generally, press reviewing is only a week or two before the movie premieres.
The time span was off, but you know what I meant.
No, I understand. And it's that way so that, like video games have to be reviewed early, it's that way to be a...
That way you can watch it and think about it. It's not
watch
gut
it,
reactions.
think about it, and then have a timely review the day it premieres. They used to do this on Broadway. They would have press nights on Broadway, which are 2 nights before opening night.
Yeah, and then that way, the reviewers have a day to think about it and write it, submit it, and then it comes out on the day of or the night before.
So the problem with games media is that unlike all those other things, that where it's you watch
because all these other things have integrity.
No, You watch the movie and the movie is gone.
Mm-hmm.
You watch the play and the play is gone. You review the game and you have the game.
Or like audio albums, like CDs, things like that.
Yes.
Like music, you have that.
Yes. So
Or straight to DVD movie.
Here's how they get around it. If you go into most video game review places, corporate office, they will have
They have a
large
closet or
collection.
a freaking wall of games because that's where it all is.
Yes, because those games are not the reviewers.
No, they are but I'm
They
saying
are the
like
property of the
for
company.
an independent reviewer, somebody like a Total Biscuit who
And as we
does
get
it out of his
closer-
house. Now, granted, I like the way TB does things because I feel he is fairly objective,
Yes.
and he has caught a lot of hell for a lot
Well,
of.
I would say you agree with his opinion.
Well,
You trust his
I
opinion.
trust his opinion more than I would trust some other people.
Yes. Objectivity is not the word I think you want to use.
I think. Well, I feel like he is more fair
Yes,
when it
there
comes
you
to a game review. He will call a developer out and say, you know, this isn't fun, or this whole thing is just rehashed crap from the last game.
So the thing about GamerGate that's been hilarious to me is that YouTube personalities are trying to take on the established gamer press, which are also, thanks to the internet, just really bloggers now, and saying, you guys aren't objective, you guys don't have ethics, you guys don't have this, you guys don't have that, when you don't have integrity, you don't have any of this stuff, these stop point measures, when in actuality, yes, they do.
They do have those stuff.
They have very concrete lawyers that will fire you for doing certain things.
Yes, they do.
And
because
people
they
have
are
gotten
contractually
fired.
obligated
Yes.
to do it, whatever. But and to go back to the point I made last week, I feel like even though I like the way Total Biscuit does things, and I know he gets review copies of games, I don't know, because he asks them, and I think he now works for himself, basically, as a company, like he's incorporated or whatever. So it's not like he's just a guy with a camera and does all this stuff on his own. Like he has sponsors and things like that. But like if I were to do a video review, I will have bought that game. I will spend my own money, and I will have used my free time in order to play it and come to my own conclusions on that game. Like with Destiny, I've played the beta and the alpha, and I liked what I played, so that's why I'm buying the game. That's why I bought the game.
I mean, this comes back to the generally people our age don't read reviews of movies or media.
Well, I
at
don't.
Because
I
we've made up our opinion.
I know I'm going to go see every Marvel the movie that comes out, not because I want to, but because my wife also wants to.
Yes.
And
because the last one was good.
And the last one was good. If they start sucking, then we may not go watch the next
We
one.
both played Destiny beta.
And you're not buying it because
And I'm not buying it because I said, this is too
I don't
MMO
really
for
want
me.
an MMO.
Yeah, this is too MMO for me. And this other game is coming out right around the same time, and I really want that game.
I want this game more than this game, and then you make that opportunity cost.
So
like,
no, Lord of the Rings could get a 5. I hope it doesn't.
unless
and
it's a 5 of 5.
Destiny could get a 10.38, and it would be fine. Whatever. It's screwed up that the industry does kickback and compensation based on Metacritic reviews, but that's not the journalist's fault. That's the industry's fault.
Yeah, but I didn't even think about the kickback thing, but and I don't want to say this happens, but I'm sure it happens a little bit. They fudge their numbers. They're like, okay, well, I thought this was like a 7 game, but such and such works for this company, and I really don't want his company to fold, so I'm going to give it a 7.5 or an 8.
Then they're a poor journalist and should be fired. But once again, you're talking about bloggers. So anyone can be a blogger. That's it.
We have a blog. It never gets used, but we have a blog.
Anyone can do what Kotaku does. Anyone can do.
Maybe not on the scale unless you just want to do that.
There's a
all
scale
the time.
problem and an audience problem, which I think a lot of the GamerGate YouTube anger has been growing out of.
Yeah, because
is that you see Kotaku and you see IGN and they get so many hits on their videos and they're really not doing as what you think is a bang up job, and you're doing a bang up job, and why isn't anyone listening to you? Because you're not getting ad revenue and you're not getting this and they're not giving you free games and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And like that's great. That's a legitimate concern.
That's why that's my concern. Why aren't we getting ad views? Oh, because we get like 5 viewers a week.
Yeah. Like that's a legitimate concern, and I understand that. Another legitimate concern from the video game space is that since it grew out of magazines, which magazines have what's called endemic advertising, which means if I pick up a magazine for football, it will have advertisements based around sports and
football stuff, or running shoes, or Gatorade, or
like TV journalism, news. All this grew out of newspapers, which had advertising for everything.
pretty much.
You know.
So now you're just talking about specialized advertising for specialized
Yeah, it's called endemic.
outlets. Yeah.
Yeah, it's called endemic advertising. So basically,
Use
the only
smaller
people,
words, Andy.
Sorry.
Not everybody's got a fancy education like you.
Okay.
Remember,
So
lowest common denominator.
Sorry,
I'm
So-
not saying that the 5 of you are the lowest common denominator.
we
But
like you guys.
sometimes I like you say words and I have to like pick the context of it, and I'm like, okay. So then I come up with my own version. You're like, no, that's what this means.
Okay. So anyway, so basically, if you're on a video game website, you'll see ads for video games.
Or-
it makes sense from an
yes.
advertising point of view.
Because obviously you're interested in this thing.
Yes.
So maybe you want more of this thing, like this thing that's kind of like the thing that you're looking at, but a little bit different. And oh, hey, I can get some more of your money.
Yes. So the problem becomes that if you're getting paid by Game X, can the company be objective about Game X?
See Gerstmann Gate.
See Gerstmann Gate. And
That's
good
right. We don't
example-
like putting gate at the end of things.
I hate
The Jeff Gerstmann debacle
because
that happened at
Watergate had
GameStop.
nothing to do with water. That's always my part. My part and parcel for it.
That was just the name of the building.
It's just the name of the building, and you're all putting gate after it because water. Anyway, so a good example there. This executive
That was Kane and Lynch 2?
one.
1? Okay.
This executive didn't know how to do his job correctly, and he did a very poor job of it. Him and Jeff Gerstmann had a problem because one of their major advertisers was Kane and Lynch. Gerstmann gave a bad review to Kane and Lynch,
'Cause that game
deservingly.
Yeah. Like from what I gathered, because I never played it, because it didn't look fun to me. It
I
was not a
played
very good game.
It had its moments.
Well, I
wasn't
mean,
great.
even the dirtiest little turd finds some polish.
There's a peanut in everything.
There's a
Anyway,
peanut in every turd.
So because the manager didn't know how to do his job correctly, he made a big showing for Gerstmann. Gerstmann felt it was somewhere he couldn't work anymore. I kind of agree with him. If your managers don't stand behind you, it's kind of hard to have faith. And he left.
And so did like 5 other people.
Yes, and that was the manager's fault, not the writers.
No.
So how can Kotaku or Destructoid be objective about these things?
I keep forgetting about Destructoid.
They can be objective about these things because in a good, if you're doing your job how you're supposed to be doing it when you set up these websites and you set up these journalistic media outlets, you set the sales and advertising
Super blogs.
sales and advertising area somewhere else in the building so that it in no way influences the writers, because you want to keep the writers, the content creators, as insulated as possible from the shit that's going on elsewhere.
But they can look at the website and they can see what ads are on there, and they can see
Yes.
who their major contributor is. Now,
Yes.
I
That is the problem with
now maybe this is
advertising.
maybe this is because I put ad block on my everything.
Oh, don't get me started on that. The
Um,
people
could-
that want true ethics in game journalism, and you want Woodward and Bernstein.
This has
be
nothing
game
to do with it.
journalists.
I just don't want to look at 9 million ads every time I go to a website.
Here's the problem with that thought. If you have that thought and you want those things and you're using ad block, you are never going to get them, because ad block is literally taking dollars away from people that you are actively supporting. So the people that do the writing that you like, the people that do the things that you like, so you go to their website.
So what you're telling me is I should turn ad block off so that I can get all the crap that comes through ads when I go to any website, because it's not just irreparable.
No, but you can add
ones.
websites
To the whitelist.
To the whitelist.
Yes, I
so
know.
yes, add them so that the people that you like that
But I
write
don't
the
want
articles.
I don't want a half-page ad that I have to close every time I open up a website.
Well, then you have to deal with that guy eventually losing his job because they don't. Get
Not
money.
necessarily. They find ad. I mean, they get ad revenue through, and they get paid on page clicks and stuff like that. I don't care.
But the company pays them on page clicks out of the ad revenue.
The ads still are there. I don't break the code. I just don't look at them. And I don't click through the ads because I know what I'm going to buy. I don't need ads for crap.
Oh.
Which is why I fast forward through the ads on when I DVR things.
And people do, and there are people that do that and get upset when Pepsi shows up product placement in their favorite TV show. Well, Pepsi's product placement in your favorite TV show because
I
of
could
that.
give a crap less as long as it's not like it doesn't take away from the show. Like unless there is a section of the show where they're like, oh yeah, it's this, where they're talking about the car, because I don't give a crap, and it's happened in.
Remember Heroes, Nissan Versa?
Yeah, it happened. I want to say it happened in an episode of Bones, right? Like
Yeah.
they were sitting there, she's driving her Prius around, and he goes, huh, this is a pretty nice car. What's the gas mileage on it? She's like, oh, it's like 45 miles to the gallon or some shit like that. And I'm like, don't care. You are wasting time on the TV show, the entertaining part of the show, to do an ad in the middle of it.
And that's because I
and DVR past the
millions of other people are DVRing past their other revenue streams.
Well, that's okay. I usually, for the shows that I don't pay for channels on, I just download them, and the ads have been cut out at that point. Or if I miss it and I'm too lazy.
You originally had a point you were getting to.
I forgot what that point was. I totally forgot what it was.
So yes, endemic advertising is a problem. People, there are opinion pieces, we call them features, that will be the things like Anita Sarkeesian, an interview with her, or how gaming's demographics are changing, so how do we, cozy up to the female demographic? What is it like for women or minorities?
And that's just it.
Those are called features.
They feel, and I feel like that's not fair to anybody, because they then have to feel like, oh, well, we have this new thing, so we have to treat them like they're something special when they're just another person. And if they're on your website, they automatically like gaming. So unless they have a poll that's like, well, what would you like to see on our website? And they get an overwhelming response to,
But they know what people
They
click
do.
on.
They do know what they.
So that is what, like Polygon, a good example. Polygon.
I don't think that they need to isolate the subgroups of the gaming community just to pull in more of that subgroup. I think if they treat everybody equally and they don't go, okay, well now we're going to go after the, we're going to run this story that's positive because this game has a female protagonist or a transgender protagonist or a black protagonist or an Asian protagonist instead of just your big white guy.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to run a positive story about this and our, whatever. I don't think that...
But that's how you write the story. It's like, what are the effects of having a non-white male main character?
Yeah. I don't...
a good example is just because you don't want to hear about the minorities playing video games. I understand if you don't.
I don't really give a shit.
Yeah.
Like,
but I understand. But it doesn't mean that, like, people like me, like, I care about that. I want to know what it's like for a woman, like, in an hour on Halo or Call of Duty or whatever not. What's it like for a woman playing that game? Like, we should talk about that, and we should talk about
But
why.
we don't know.
Well, no,
because
we don't know.
Neither you or me are a woman that plays Halo.
Yes, that's the point. We don't know. That's why places like Polygon, places like Kotaku, are getting a lot of clicks off these articles
because
there are people like us that want to know, and if they want to tell those stories.
But really, I mean, we don't have to go to Polygon or Kotaku to even get a chance to feel what, not to feel what that's like, but to experience what it's like for that, because all you have to do is play those games enough to know that, when you hear a female voice or you hear somebody who has, like a thick, I don't want to say like...
accent.
Yeah, a really thick accent from somewhere that you may or may not recognize. Everybody will jump on that, and they'll be like, oh, there's a girl in the channel. All right, guys, let's start hitting on her. Or oh, let's just tell her that she's a girl, and maybe she'll go away. Like, if we treat her like crap, she'll go away because this is only for us.
Yeah, but not everyone's like us.
No, not everybody is like us. And
like, when you buy a magazine or a newspaper, do you read every article?
It depends on the magazine.
Well.
And I don't buy newspapers because print is dying. But...
but when you go to a website, you don't read every article.
No, I don't read every article. I read the articles that seem interesting to me. Yes. And that's why you...
And if it doesn't seem interesting to you, you ignore it, right?
Sometimes. Sometimes I click through them just because I'm looking for something to read.
I don't know.
Because they're like, what's this about? Oh, that's just another one of those picture and a thing. Well, they got a page click out of me.
So this brings us to another problem. A lot of the people that work in the media, this is a problem that all media has had to deal with since the beginning of time, tend to be progressive. And... there's no real reason why that we can find, but I work with a lot of progressives.
Flo?
No.
Oh.
I work with a lot of progressives. Woodward and Bernstein were progressive at the time they were writing that stuff. We tend to be younger, tend to not make a lot of money, we tend to be culturally diverse. This is not untrue in the gaming press.
No.
Because of that, you're going to get a lot of content centered around things that progressives find important.
Yes.
So if Patrick Klepek is going to sit down to write a feature, he's going to write a feature that he's obviously has some interest in.
Like women in gaming or something like that. That's the only one I could come up with because I know he did a panel with
Zoe
Quinn at, I don't remember what it was. I want to say it was like a PAX or something like that. And, it was all about, I want to say it was all about women in gaming and like...
And like the harassment they receive and how you deal with harassment and all this stuff. And these things happen in gaming. They're worthwhile to be reported on. I understand if people are upset and they feel that they're disproportionately reported on. That's a problem.
Well, and it does seem like
But the only way
it does seem like people make a big deal about it when it is a woman or it is a minority because
we have a history of not being nice to women and minorities.
Yes, but so if somebody were to say these exact things to Klepek himself, the internet wouldn't be all up in arms. Nobody would be all up in arms except Klepek and maybe his buddies.
Well, but now you're getting into like the definition of can white people be racists? Can men be sexist?
No, I'm not even saying that. Like,
Can women be sexist?
I'm saying if somebody was like the whole
because
the whole thing with Zoe Quinn getting doxxed or whatever.
Yes. If this
and then it happened to
Klepek.
Phil Fish too.
Yes.
I don't know. My understanding
People
of
are
it
upset
was
about the Phil Fish thing.
nobody. Well, people gave. There are people who are upset about it, but they got less upset about Phil Fish because of who he is on the internet and
Yes.
how he's.
And the
He is who
problem
he is. I don't care about
this is
if
the
Phil Fish
trade-off-
is an asshole.
This is the trade-off with
I don't
white
care.
male privilege. Is that when
We're not allowed to bitch about shit.
No, when we get picked on, people don't care as much.
Exactly.
Because all the other times,
Why don't we just
we
care
have life
about
on
every
easy mode.
time somebody gets picked on? Every time.
we should,
But we
100% behind that. But the problem is history, and that if everyone were like us and said everyone has a voice, everyone is worthwhile, everyone needs to be respected, no one should be harassed. If everyone was like this, it would be a lot better. The problem is there are people out there that look similar to us, more similar to us than to the minorities, that's why they're minorities, that are not that way, that are assholes.
I like how we keep using the term minority when in a lot of communities, white people are the minority. You're talking about other races.
Yes.
You're not talking, not necessarily. I think
Well, I was
the
talking
term.
about-
I think the term minority needs to be retired, and I think we need to not. We just need to say people who are not this.
I was talking
versus.
I was talking about minority in the strictly academic mathematical sense, that in gaming, a majority of players...
I can tell you right now, the people I used to play League with, most of them, there were probably more, I think more of the guys that I talked with and played with were black or Asian than there was white guys. I think out of the group of 10, there was like 2 white guys and everybody else was something else. At
That's
that
fine.
point, mathematically, I was the minority.
Yeah. But by and
Out
large...
of my group of friends,
Yes.
I was the minority.
But by and large-
and I think we need to walk away from the term minority when describing races that are not white. Because that is inherent. I feel like that is inherently racist.
But I'm not just describing...
And describing them as a minority puts them in a disadvantage because they are the minority when they are not necessarily a mathematical minority or their opinion means less because they are not white minority. Like that's what I'm getting at. I think we need to step away from using the term minority when talking about anybody.
Okay.
Unless it is mathematically proven that they are. Because we don't know that women are the mathematical minority when it comes to gaming.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
The Internet Software Association tracks
say,
this
okay,
stuff.
but I mean, okay, so yes, mathematically they are what, like 43% of people in gaming now?
When we say minorities, one, I'm not just talking about race.
Or gender.
I'm not just talking about gender. I'm not just talking about sexuality. I'm not just talking about economic influence. I'm talking about all of those things.
Yes. Okay.
Versus the fact that, yes, white males are still a majority in gaming.
Are they?
Yes, according to the latest numbers by the ESA. If you take all the age groups of white males and slam them together, they still have a majority. We're not going to have one for long, and we're going to definitely get, when I say majority, you're thinking, I mean, 51% and above.
Yes.
No. I'm saying majority in the fact that we have the plurality over all other races and genders.
That is
combined.
probably a better term to use.
The plurality?
I think if that means close to like never mind. I feel like every time I hear the word minority, it is inherently racist
Bill
or
Clinton
sexist to me.
didn't win the 1992 election with a majority. He won it with a plurality. He had 49% of the vote. But thank you, Ross Perot, for being a crazy guy and taking so many percent from George H.W. Bush. That is a plurality.
That is a different situation because we have an electoral college, and that fucks shit up
I was
even
talking about
harder.
the popular vote.
Yeah, I understand, but I'm still saying he may have won anyway, even with 49% of the vote. Had G-Dub gotten 51, we still would have had the electoral college. He could have taken like Texas and New England and
My bad. I should have said the popular vote instead of just saying the election.
Yes.
Okay.
That is a slightly different situation. But I understand, yes,
So yes, we have a plurality. You told me before not to use big words, so that's why I used minorities. Because even once again, a plurality is not necessarily a majority, but everything that is less than a plurality is still a minority. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So anyway, wow, that got off on a tangent. So I said before we were going to do the 3 things that you should do to get what you want out of GamerGate like this.
Of course we went on.
We're going to try and do these as quickly as possible because, oh my God, that went away.
It's already,
Number 1, if you believe in something, for the love of God, or whatever.
Whatever it is you believe in.
Defend it, okay? And not defend it only from the people that oppose it. Defend it also from the people that will agree with you, but are bad for you. This is the problem with that pro-GamerGate people, I think, still have, is that's great that you want these things, and it's about ethics and everything, and you're on the side of this issue, and blah, 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 blah. That's great. I want to talk about it.
Because,
I want to talk about journalism.
I know what
I want to talk about
about
ethics.
Because
the problem is the guy standing next to you is so horribly toxic and loud that you're never going to get your point across.
Well, because weren't there people who jumped on the GamerGate thing, and I'm not going to pull out groups because I couldn't tell you right or wrong, but there were like pro-feminist people who jumped on GamerGate.
Yes.
Thinking that it was all positive and it would help their cause when in
and
fact
oddly enough, they got attacked.
The people who started it are the very people who attacked them like 2 days later.
Yes.
Yeah.
So interesting. So
just because the guy is next to you on the picket line doesn't mean he's not a giant piece of crap.
Yes. So the first thing you have to do is look at the people near you, the people next to you, the people on your side. Mm-hmm. I've always said if it's very easy to pick out what side of most issues you want to be on by looking at the worst supporters of each. Mm-hmm. Good example, I never want to agree with Fred Phelps, so I'm pro-gay marriage.
It has nothing to do with being Fred Phelps.
Mm-hmm.
Like, isn't he dead now?
Yeah, he's dead.
Okay.
I should probably stop picking on him.
No,
yeah,
it's okay.
Look at the people. Look at the people on each issue and ask, do I want to be, we're all
even closely associated or even marginally associated with this guy over here?
Yes, you're going to be judged
would
by
I
the
rather
crowd
be,
you hang out with.
Well, you're judged by the most vocal of the people in that group. Mm-hmm. Depending on whether or not they are the biggest chunk or the smallest chunk.
Yes. So for GamerGate people, the first thing you need to do is get rid of those people. So if you're pro-GamerGate, you really believe in journalistic ethics, I would say find another hashtag. I hope you have by this
journalism.
point. Yeah. I hope you have found another
ethics
hashtag
in
by this
games,
point.
maybe.
Well, people are trying that, but other people are like, no, that's just a feminist way of doing
things. That's too general.
Yeah,
blah, blah, blah,
whatever.
Yeah.
So that's 1. So 2 is understand the context in which the argument takes place, or the debate. I shouldn't say argument. So right now, if you want to get a pro-gamer ethics, change journalistic ethics, you're going to have to wait. I'm sorry. You're probably going to have to wait a few months because this thing has blown up so big, become so toxic, you have to distance yourself from it.
And the problem is, I think with that is, if you want big change like that, you would have to get into the industry in some way, shape, or form.
Well, that's going to be 3.
Okay. Change the path. Change the future.
Yes.
Next gen.
So
just keep kicking it to the next gen because it's not our problem right now.
Say later.
See global warming.
We'll talk about that later. Anyway, so even if you and this group of like-minded people that are asshole-free make a really good argument and you're sitting on top of a trash mountain, no one else is going to join you.
Because nobody wants to be on top of Trash Mountain.
Yes. So the one thing you need to understand is you need to think of, once again, your message, the group with which you associate, and now the context in which you deliver that message. So it doesn't matter that GamerGate had really good things, and it did. And I want to talk about things. And I want to talk about journalistic ethics. I want to talk about endemic advertising, all these things. The problem becomes you're also standing shoulder to shoulder with assholes, and it's all born out of this really disgusting, misogynistic 4chan thing that is just horrible.
Isn't that most 4chan things?
I don't know how to say most. Although it's just
a lot of.
It reaffirms like the I never want to go to the Chan message boards at all.
I mean, I look around on Reddit, but Reddit's not that bad most days.
Yeah. Like, I get
that and there's user IDs on Reddit.
The best thing is I get upset at YouTube and Twitter, and that is like, people are like, oh, that's bad, but oh, it gets so much worse. Anyway, so we talked about number 3. So the easiest way, you're asking, what can I do now? Easiest way is to start a blog, start a website, and hope that you gain readership. Because that's all Kotaku is just a blog.
I mean, yeah.
It's a blog with advertising. It's a blog with...
It's a blog with financial backing.
Financial backing. It's a blog with a lot of famous press personalities associated with it. But it's still
in those
just
circles,
a blog.
yes, they are famous.
Yes. So, like, a good example is you couldn't just start a cable news network. It takes too much. You couldn't buy reporters. You couldn't pay for a building. You probably couldn't even get the FCC to pay attention to you until a while.
Yeah.
But here on the internet, you can just start a blog.
But, I mean, you could do that with PBS or like, your local broadcasting things.
You can't locally broadcast.
No, I mean, like what? So they got rid of, like...
Oh, you mean like public access?
Yeah, like public access stuff.
You can
do
public
that.
access.
That's what I meant. That's what I was going for.
Yes, public access is doable.
Yeah. We could totally put our show on public access. Let's do it. Except we have to pay.
Yes.
Damn it.
So that's it. I'm sorry, GamersGate. Like, you have a lot of really good things to say, and I was saying this all the time, that I was reading everything.
Not everything was horribly negative.
There was a majority of things that were not horribly negative, that people brought up really good points. However, you were standing shoulder to shoulder with people that were doing really reprehensible stuff.
The worst stuff ever.
And you were standing on top of ground built on a sewer, like, of this Quinspiracy stuff, and this Five Guys Burgers and Fries, which is just like the horrible most... People were tweeting me that video left and right.
I'm hungry.
People were just like, oh, this guy's doing actual journalism. Like, just because someone agrees with you doesn't make it actual journalism. What makes... You'll be able to tell actual journalism because it's really boring to read and it's long. Yeah. Actual journalism is not a blog. Actual journalism is long.
Yeah.
Like, even AP articles about, like, nothing are a page. And it's just like, oh, God, guys.
It's so dry.
In my work, we have to pay attention to the news wires. And reading stuff off the news wires, it's just like,
Yeah.
So they pay people like me to put in the color, the flavor, you know. Basically, I get the Eggo waffle, and I put the syrup on it, and then I give it to you.
Here's some butter and syrup, and maybe if you like peanut butter.
Yes.
I like peanut butter or Nutella. Nutella's good.
Yeah, I don't like Nutella.
What?
I don't.
It's chocolate hazelnut spread. It's so
like
good.
I don't like hazelnut.
I eat it by the spoonful.
I do want that. Have you seen that Hershey's like cookie chocolate spread? Like, there's like an Oreo cookie spread. I just want to like open that up and just eat it. Anyway, so those are the things that you have to do, and I'm sorry that what you, and I said this last time, I'm really sorry that the things that you honestly believe in were hijacked by people that are so vehemently disgusting and hateful.
It was.
You know, I'm sorry that you were a tool. You had honestly good things to say.
And not a tool in a derogatory way, and a tool as in, you know, you were used for nefarious purposes that you did not intend for you to be used for. Because there's a difference between you're a tool, Dave, and don't be a tool of the man, or don't be a tool of these guys. Like, don't be a pawn on their chess game.
I'm really sorry that happened. And you know what? Once again, full disclosure, since we're brought up again, Zoe Quinn could be totally lying. It's my opinion that she's not. Once again, we're not going to know until this stuff comes to court.
Well,
and given what the FBI has been doing lately, I'm kind of sure we're going to start seeing stuff in court.
Yeah. I mean, that...
Because now that you have Google, Twitter, even Apple is getting on the bandwagon of just basically giving your stuff over. If
you start being a dick on the internet...
Yeah. It used to be...
I mean, your ISPs will do that.
Yeah, it used to be that people would show up to ISPs with a subpoena, and the ISP would be like, there's no way we can do it. We can't. No way. Now ISPs are like, yeah, we're done
We've been traffic. We've been watching this guy's traffic for weeks. We see where he's going. We have packet sniffers. We have those we have those where I work.
Yeah, it was because because of stuff like child pornography that all this stuff has started to come out. Yeah. And now
it can just be broadly used.
Yeah.
That's right. Don't do your stuff on your own internet at home, people. Do it in public.
No, don't be
if you're gonna be a jerk on the internet,
and don't do it at all.
Go to Panera and do it.
Yeah, be a better person and don't do it at all.
Yes, because everything that...
To me, the fact that Twitter will sell you out,
that's a big deal.
A big point.
Yeah, like, this is the email address he uses. This is where these are the last 100 IPs he's used for...
Now, granted, I deal a lot with police officers, so it always comes down to how bad were you, how much does the police officer want to, come get you. Mm-hmm. People have been saying, don't repost that. There's an article that says, so one of the dudes that was swatting someone got 25 years.
Oh, yeah, because he was labeled as a domestic terrorist.
Yeah. Apparently, people are like, no, that's trash, that's fake, blah, 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 blah. I don't know for sure whether that's true or not. I do know for sure there have been charges brought against people that have been swatting, and there have been people taken to court over swatting. So I don't know how those came out.
That specific instance is fuzzy as to what the outcome is. But yeah, I know.
Okay, so in a wrap-up, so the things that because once again, I truly believe GamerGate had some good things to say. The things you need to do, you already have your message. You need to police the people that are standing next to you. You didn't see the social justice warriors feeling the need to police themselves. You saw them attacking other people, but you didn't see them policing themselves. You need to police the people standing with you because you're going to be judged by everyone else.
Just like everybody else is going to judge them.
Yes.
You can't after the fact go, oh, I don't know, I have nothing to do with that
I have nothing to do with that guy.
But you were standing right there next to him.
Right next to him. So 2, you need to make sure that the context in which you have the debate is appropriate and it is not going to hurt you. Okay? Any debate around GamerGate-like things, probably for the next couple months, will probably hurt you. You'll be starting on the wrong foot. The third thing, you can go start a blog now if you want to do something now.
Yeah.
You can bring this up. You can start a website. Go Kickstart or Indiegogo a website that is a conservative news outlet for gaming. That's why Fox News gets such good ratings, because there wasn't a conservative right-wing news outlet until Fox News. As fair and balanced as they are.
I want to say, and this is...
That's why talk radio shows...
Well, I will talk about this after, because it's...
Okay. And I thought of...
one more thing?
An asterisk, a pinky. If you want to understand how your viewpoint is being viewed, look for articles on websites that do not normally cover your niche. So when Forbes and Paste start coming out and saying, this is trash, look away from this, understand that they might not have done the research well, they might not have, they might be hacks, blah, 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 blah. But understand that they have access to a much larger population of people than you do. That's going to be that population's first exposure to that issue.
Yeah.
So that was a good, for me as a gamer.
Because I actually, those were 2 of the articles I found, right? The one on Pace and the one on Forbes. I was like, if these guys are talking about it and they're saying that this is all just, this is not what this is not a representative example of what the majority of the gaming community is like. This is a small vocal outlet of people doing their worst.
Yes.
Which is usually what you hear about anyway.
Yes, and a good example is places like Paste, places like Forbes, have lawyers. Lawyers that will defend them, but lawyers that have also, put out in, writing, this is how much you can receive in gifts. This is what constitutes gifts. This is this is this. They have management they have to go through that doesn't deal with games and doesn't really care what side or the other is right or wrong. They care, is this going to get us sued? And if it goes through that sieve, that filter,
if the flowchart says yes, you will get sued, it doesn't happen.
It doesn't get posted. Yeah. But if it pops out the other side of the filter, and they're like, okay, that is as close as you are likely to get to responsible, objective journalism, because it's the safest.
Yep.
That's the sad part of journalism today.
It is.
We went long. We'll see you next week. We'll be talking about games. I'm sure Dave will have Destiny by that point.
I will have lots of Destiny to talk about, probably.
I won't.
Hopefully, I won't have hit the level cap in 2 weeks.
But,
because that's probably going to happen because of how I played.
We can also talk about fall games. I want to talk about fall games.
Then we will talk about
this GamerGate
fall games in 2
thing
weeks.
Sat on our heads.
Yeah, well, because it happened in between the filming of 2 shows.
Yeah.
Or 2 sets of shows. So
once again, pulling the curtain back, we record 2 shows once every 2 weeks. So we'll see you later. Leave us a comment. I'll do my best to respond to all of them.
Leave us comments or tweet at us or whatever. We can get to it. So.
Yep. Bye.